a grand house, a family bound by tradition, and a world that refuses to stay the same. Downton Abbey has always been more than a story about the Crawleys and their servants. It's been a mirror of an entire era fading into history. As the curtains fall on the grand finale, the question lingers. How do you say goodbye to a world that feels like home? For more than a decade, Downton Abbey has been telling a story of elegance, resilience, and change. It began as a series that pulled audiences deep into the heart of early 20th century England, where upstairs nobility and downstairs staff lived separate lives, yet shared the same roof, the same fate, and often the same heartbreak. At its center stood the Crawley family, with Lord Grantham shouldering the heavy burden of legacy and Lady Cora balancing compassion with the demands of tradition. Around them, characters we came to love: Mary, Edith, Sybil, Anna, Bates, Carson, Mrs. Hughes, and so many more, fought their own battles in a time where the world seemed to change faster than they could breathe. Across 6 seasons, Downton transformed into more than just period drama. It became an exploration of social class, of how wars, deaths, scandals, and weddings reshaped not just the Crawleys, but everyone who called the estate home. The show dared to put tradition and progress side by side, asking audiences, what survives when the old ways die? Then came the films, carrying the story further. The first brought a royal visit, testing loyalty, pride, and ambition, while reminding us that even the grandest halls could not escape history's march. The second was filled with farewells, both heartbreaking and beautiful, as we saw one era close and another one stir with new life. Each film layered on more closure, yet also planted seeds of hope. By the time Downton Abbey 3, the grand finale arrived, the weight of everything that came before it was impossible to ignore. Fans entered the theater not just to watch another chapter, but to say goodbye to characters who had become family. The finale promised not just answers, but a sense of closure, wrapping threads that had been woven since the very first dinner bell rang. Every finale is a test of balance, how to give every character the ending they deserve, while still leaving the audience with a sense of destiny fulfilled. Downton Abbey 3. The grand finale does exactly this by weaving together conflicts that have been simmering for years, each one demanding its conclusion. At the heart of it all lies the Crawley family's legacy. Downton Abbey itself has always been more than a home. It is a living symbol of tradition, wealth, and class. But in the finale, the question is sharper than ever. Can this estate survive in a modern world that no longer bends to aristocracy? Lord Grantham and Lady Mary are forced to face what the future holds, whether Downton will remain a beacon of family honor or become a relic of the past. It's not just about money or titles. It's about memory, pride, and the weight of history pressing against their shoulders. Running alongside this legacy is the thread of romance and personal happiness. The Crawleys have always been caught between duty and desire, and the finale finally dares to ask, will they choose their hearts or their responsibilities? We see new loves blossoming, long silent promises finally spoken, and old wounds healed with the courage of acceptance. Some characters find freedom in love, while others discover that true devotion means sacrifice. But it's not just the noble family whose lives are at a turning point. Downstairs, the staff face their own crossroads. Some prepare to leave Downton for brighter futures beyond its stone walls, chasing dreams once impossible. Others choose loyalty, binding their lives forever to the estate and the people they have served for decades. This tension between departure and devotion echoes the larger theme. The world is moving forward, but not everyone wants to leave the past behind. And finally, there is the unspoken conflict, time itself. Every scene of the finale carries the weight of goodbye. Characters sense it, the house seems to breathe it, and even the audience feels it. This is the last gathering, the last celebration, the last moment where every story can be tied into one. It is not the kind of conflict that erupts in battles or shouts. It is quieter, sadder, more inevitable. The conflict of holding on versus letting go. Together, these threads create a finale that is not just about tying up storylines, but about confronting the eternal truth. Nothing, Not even Downton Abbey can escape change. And it is in that tension, between legacy and progress, between duty and love, between staying and leaving, that the grand finale finds its heartbeat. G in the grand dining room of Downton Abbey. In the grand finale, every character becomes a thread in a final tapestry, woven tight, shining with closure, and tinged with the ache of farewell. Their journeys are not rushed. They are earned, the result of years of triumphs and heartbreaks that now demand resolution. The Crawley family sits at the center of it all. Lady Mary, once torn between duty and desire, now carries the estate with unshakable strength. She is no longer the hesitant daughter, struggling to balance tradition with her own happiness. She has become the unspoken heir to her father's vision. Her choices are sharper, her words heavier, as if she finally accepts that the survival of Downton rests in her hands. Lady Edith, on the other hand, finds a quieter ending, an arc of redemption after years of feeling overlooked. In her, we see the victory of persistence, the reward of refusing to give up, and the gentle peace that comes when a character long shadowed by misfortune finally steps into the light. For Lord Grantham, the finale is about acceptance. Once the immovable pillar of the old ways, he now stares into the reality of a changing world. His role shifts from decision-maker to guide, allowing the younger generation to take the reins. There is dignity in his surrender, and his silence in the final acts carries more weight than his speeches ever did. Lady Cora, with her quiet grace, reminds us that love and patience are as powerful as any title, standing as the emotional anchor of the family. Downstairs, the staff's arcs are perhaps the most poignant. Carson, the embodiment of loyalty and tradition, finally finds his place not in rigid service, but in being part of a family that respects him beyond his role. Mrs. Hughes, always the calm in chaos, secures a sense of peace that is deeply human. No grand farewell, just a steady presence that tells us she has always been the heart of the servants' hall. Anna and Bates, who carried some of the series' darkest trials, received their long-deserved happiness, a rare and precious gift in a world that so often tested them. And then there are the romances and farewells. Characters who began their journeys longing for something more finally receive it, whether it is love, independence, or freedom from the burdens of the past. Others, however, bid goodbye with a kind of elegance that only Downton Abbey could craft. Quiet, tender, and unforgettable. Every farewell feels like the closing of a book we have been reading for years, a book whose pages we know by heart. What makes these arcs unique is not just that they conclude, it is that they reflect who these characters have always been. Mary's ambition, Edith's resilience, Grantham's pride, Carson's loyalty, Anna's endurance. Every ending is shaped by the core of the character, reminding us that the finale is not rewriting them, but honoring them. In the end, the house stands tall, the family remains bound, and the staff step into futures once unimaginable. Each ending is not just a goodbye, it is a statement that no matter the passage of time, the spirit of Downton Abbey will live on in its people, in its memories, and in the hearts of its audience. The finale of Downton Abbey 3 does more than close doors on characters we love. It leaves us with ideas that echo beyond the screen. At its heart, this ending is about the collision of tradition and change. From the very first episode, Downton stood as a symbol of an old world, one where titles and estates defined destiny. But by the finale, that old certainty has crumbled. Modernity presses in. Cars replace horses, women claim independence, and servants no longer dream only of servitude. Yet the show never paints progress as destruction. Instead, it asks, how do we carry the beauty of the past into the future without letting it chain us? The Crawleys themselves embody this struggle. Lord Grantham represents the fading grandeur of a class losing its grip, while Mary becomes the bridge to tomorrow, a woman who can honor the legacy of Downton without becoming its prisoner. The family's choices reflect a larger truth. Tradition is not meant to stand still. It is meant to evolve, and sometimes survival requires letting go of what we thought was permanent. But beneath the grandeur lies another theme: love versus duty. Time and again, The characters have sacrificed personal happiness for responsibility, or risked duty for love. The finale brings those threads together, showing us that life is not about choosing one or the other, but about finding balance. Mary's leadership, Edith's quiet fulfillment, Anna and Bates' hard-won joy, all stand as testaments that love and duty can coexist, but only when we have the courage to fight for both. And then there is the most universal theme of all, the passage of time. Every scene of the finale whispers it. Time cannot be stopped. Children grow, generations shift, and even great houses like Downton must adapt or fade. The characters feel it, the audience feels it, and in truth, that inevitability is the final villain of the story. Yet rather than resisting, the finale embraces it. It tells us that endings are not erasures, they are transformations. The closing moments of Downton Abbey 3. The grand finale are not loud, nor are they desperate for spectacle. Instead, they are whispered goodbyes wrapped in beauty, carrying the weight of years we have lived with these characters. The filmmakers understand that endings are not about shock, they are about resonance. And so, the final farewell unfolds like a painting, each scene carefully placed, to give us one last taste of the world we have called home. The tone is nostalgic, but hopeful. We see the estate not as the symbol of aristocracy it once was, but as a living memory. Its stone walls, its dining halls, its gardens, they are no longer just backdrops to drama. They are repositories of every laugh, every heartbreak, every whispered promise the show has ever given us. As the camera lingers, it feels as though the house itself is exhaling, knowing it has carried its people through yet another storm. The characters' farewells are equally cinematic. A glance between Mary and her father says more than a speech could. Edith's soft smile feels like a chapter finally closing. Carson's quiet pride, standing where he has stood for decades, is the kind of image that burns into memory. These are not grand finales of fire and collapse. They are gentle acknowledgments that life is made of small moments that mean everything. The music swells, not in triumph, but in reverence. It carries the rhythm of a heartbeat slowing, of a curtain drawing to its end. And as it plays, the camera's perspective widens, pulling us back, further and further, until Downton is no longer a house we are inside, but a vision fading into the distance. It feels like leaving behind a childhood home. Painful, yes, but also peaceful, because we know we can always return in memory. What makes this farewell unique is its refusal to close the door completely. There are no rigid full stops, no brutal endings. Instead, it feels like Downton Abbey is simply moving into another chapter, one we will not see, but one we can imagine. Life continues, love endures, and though we as viewers must say goodbye, the world of Downton carries on without us. The emotional farewell works because it mirrors our own experience as fans. Just as the Crawleys must learn to let go of the past while stepping into the future, so must we. And in that symmetry lies the true magic of the finale. It doesn't just close a story, it teaches us how to say goodbye with grace, with gratitude, and with love. Every great farewell hides treasures for those who look closely. And Downton Abbey 3. The grand finale is no different. Beneath its graceful dialogue and sweeping music, there are subtle moments, quiet choices in costume, in staging, in words, that speak louder than the story itself. These are not accidents. They are love letters to fans, reminders of the journey we've taken, and symbols of how far these characters have come. One of the most powerful touches is the use of space inside the house. Rooms we saw filled with conflict in the early seasons are revisited in softer light. The dining hall, once a battleground of tradition and authority, now feels warmer, less rigid, as though the house itself has accepted the change that once threatened to break it. Even the kitchen, with its clattering pans and endless duties, carries a lighter air, symbolizing that servitude has transformed into choice, not obligation. Costume details also speak volumes. Mary's wardrobe in the finale carries subtle nods to her mother's earlier fashion, signaling that she has taken her place as the matriarchal figure. Edith, often dressed in muted tones during her years of disappointment, is finally seen in brighter, richer fabrics, a visual confirmation of her triumph and renewal. Downstairs, the staff's uniforms are simpler, less ornate, hinting at a world that no longer clings to strict hierarchies. Then there are dialogue echoes, lines spoken in the finale that mirror words from the very first season. A phrase of encouragement, a gentle scolding, a shared joke. These callbacks act as threads tying the beginning to the end. For the audience, they are small jolts of recognition, like hearing a song you once loved long ago. They remind us that time has passed, but nothing is truly lost. Perhaps the most touching symbol is the estate itself as a character. In the final shots, Downton is not lit as it once was in cold grandeur, but bathed in warm evening light. It is as though the house too is aging, yet still standing with dignity. Its windows glimmer like eyes watching over both past and future, a reminder that while people may come and go, the spirit of home endures. These hidden details may slip by on a first viewing, but together they form the quiet poetry of the finale. They tell us that endings are not abrupt. They are woven with memory, with echoes, with symbols that let us carry the story with us long after the screen fades to black. When the screen fades and the music dies down, what remains is not just the memory of characters, but the weight of what they stood for. Downton Abbey 3. The grand finale is more than an ending. It's a reminder of why this world captured hearts across the globe. From its very first season, Downton gave us something rare. A story that balanced grandeur with intimacy, history with humanity. And in its final chapter, it proved that such a story could end with dignity, honesty, and grace. For audiences, the finale was not just about closure. It was about reflection. We saw ourselves in the Crawleys' struggle between holding on and moving forward, in the staff's quiet determination to carve out their futures, in the delicate balance of love and responsibility. It is no wonder that fans left theaters with tears in their eyes. The story had mirrored life itself, and its goodbye felt like saying farewell to an old friend. The cultural mark of Downton Abbey is undeniable. It revived the period drama for a new generation, blending elegance with raw emotion, making us care about questions of class, change, and tradition in ways that felt alive. It became more than television. It became a ritual, a comfort, a shared language between fans across the world. Even now, its influence lingers in the dramas that followed, each borrowing some touch of Downton's magic. And yet, the finale does not shut the door. It leaves us with whispers of possibility, spin-offs, side stories, or perhaps one-day revisits. But even if none of those ever come, Downton Abbey has already secured its legacy. It has shown us that endings need not be bleak, that they can be tender, layered, and filled with gratitude. For us, the audience, that is the true gift. We don't just carry the characters with us, we carry the lessons. That change is inevitable, that love endures, and that even as time passes, memories remain alive in the houses, in the families, in the stories we treasure. Downton Abbey may have ended, but it has not disappeared. It lives on in every fan who felt its magic, in every viewer who found comfort in its halls, and in every moment where fiction felt like life itself. That is its legacy, not simply a show, not simply a film, but a world that will always belong to us.